Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Tuesday, the 22nd of August. Good to have you aboard. Presented as always by Anidjar and Levine, Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. And of course, I am thrilled to be aboard with you here on a Tuesday. So we got the week started yesterday. We are officially now through preseason week number 2 as you had some Monday Night Football action last night. It is a college football game week. We got the final preseason week 3. Miami Dolphins. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend. So I got a fun little Tuesday show planned for everybody. Of course, it's Tuesday, which means, and we brought it back about a little more than a month ago, we got a fun edition of Twitter Jam coming up today. It will be NBA related. We got to talk about the Dolphins. Jonathan Taylor, he's out there. Yesterday, I want to thank everybody, all the ZASLOW Show 2.0 listeners, and who knows, maybe we have some new ZASLOW Show 2.0 listeners because of it. But all you guys who are my listeners and you tuned over to ESPN Radio yesterday, we were hosting Drive Time. That's right, afternoon drive all across the country. I hosted on ESPN Radio yesterday as filled in for Canty and Carlin. And third consecutive day, by the way, third consecutive day that I'm on ESPN Radio. I started this past weekend. It's a new little, side gig where I'm going to be doing a lot of weekends ESPN Radio. But it's the time of year with, like their official lineup, I think, debuts. The new everyday lineup debuts, I believe, next week on ESPN Radio. So you got a bunch of guys who are taking time off, fill in and stuff like that. So great timing for me, where not only did I host primetime on Saturday and Sunday on ESPN Radio, but last minute, I was asked to fill in yesterday, Carlin and Canty. Afternoon Drive, National, ESPN Radio. So that was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys who are hanging out with me there. So all of the great ZASLOW Show 2.0 listeners, if you came on over there, ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80 ESPN Radio. Of course, locally, you could always hear ESPN Radio, ESPN West Palm 106.3 FM. I don't know that they carry Canty and Carlin, because I know Ken Levica is on in the afternoons. Josh Cohen, I think, is on in the afternoons. So I don't know that they carry, Canty and Carlin on ESPN 106.3 FM in West Palm. But obviously, you can listen to me, ESPN Radio, SiriusXM Channel 80, or on the ESPN app, wherever you are. So yesterday was a lot of fun. I mean, back in the saddle for a 4-hour radio show. Got to knock some of the rust off. I think it went really well. I was happy about that. So, and those guys over there, the producers, co-hosts, everyone making it super easy there on ESPN Radio. And again, I want to reiterate a million times, being on ESPN Radio and doing work for them only means ZASLOW Show 2.0 is going to continue to grow. ZASLOW Show 2.0 is not going anywhere. I'm hoping this helps ZASLOW Show 2.0 get even bigger. More listeners, more sponsors. If you want to get at me, you could always get into my DMs. You could also email jonathanzaslow@gmail.com. That's very easy to remember. So, again, nothing changes, only gets better with ZASLOW Show 2.0. Now, on to the next thing. I'm filling in again today, 3 to 7 p.m. Canty and Carlin afternoon drive on ESPN Radio. So we knock out ZASLOW Show 2.0 here this morning, and then in the afternoon, we're going to do it again, doing drive time, ESPN Radio. No television. I know most of the shows are on TV, but when they have the fill-ins, they're not usually on television. So no TV, but I hope you guys can hang out. So if you're listening right now, you're listening to the future. If you're listening to ZASLOW Show 2.0 right now, keep listening. The show on Canty and Carlin, ESPN Radio, it's a 4-hour show. So you keep listening here, ZASLOW Show 2.0. Don't touch anything. Keep doing what you're doing. Enjoy the show. You hear my beautiful voice. And when you get done with this show, then you move on over to ESPN Radio. And you listen to your boy, 2-time champion broadcaster, representing on ESPN Radio National. So there you go. So I'm filling in again today, and I hope you guys hang out and listen. So here's what we got going. Here's what we're starting with today. I did the show yesterday. Long day. Today will be a long day too. It's all right. Long day. My son, though, my older son, he's 14, going to high school next week. My younger son, actually, who is starting middle school, started middle school yesterday. I mean, everybody knows that down here as Broward, and I think Dade County also starting this week, starting yesterday. So my younger son started middle school yesterday. That went well. My older son starting high school next week. Okay, that's neither here nor there. My older son, though, and I, we are a horror movie family. It's really just half of us. Half of us make up the horror movie family. My wife doesn't care about horror movies, and my younger son, he will get scared. He is not into it. But my older son and I, we really like horror movies. Now, I didn't like horror movies growing up. It wasn't, not that I disliked it, but it wasn't a thing for me. And then, I think really my first foray, because the horror movie genre's changed, right? I think really my first foray into horror movies was when the Saw movies came out. And we're talking almost 20 years ago, which, by the way, last night during the trailers of the movie we saw, and we'll get to that in a second, was a preview for the new Saw movie, and this movie looks awesome. Saw's my favorite horror movie franchise, favorite horror movie. I love the Saw movies. And that was really the first time I started to get into horror movies, but this new Saw movie, and I told you, I liked almost all of them. The last one, I know technically the last one was one with Chris Rock, and that movie was fine. But the one before that, which was part of like the actual Saw, Jigsaw, part of that whole deal, Saw, I think it was Saw X maybe? It was like the 10th one, 9th or 10th one. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I like all the other ones. So I'm being honest with you here. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And while it didn't ruin the Saw franchise, it changed some of the things that we knew or thought we knew. And I thought it really hurt the legacy of the franchise. Terrible movie. But this movie, they're bringing Jigsaw back. What's his name? John, I forget what his name is. John something. But the main bad guy, Tobin Bell, they're bringing Jigsaw back. How they bringing Jigsaw back, Zaslow? He's dead. He died in like the 4th or 5th movie. Because this is not it's essentially, it's a prequel. It shows you how he became Jigsaw. What happened to him. And while we've seen a little bit of that in the previous Saw movies, like I think maybe in Saw 4 we explored a little bit of that, they're showing you like the whole thing. This movie, couple things. Number one, looks really good and gory. I mean, you know how it goes. But it's smart what they're doing. Because once they killed off Jigsaw and he wasn't in the last couple of movies anymore, it really dropped off. You gotta have Tobin Bell, who of course plays the OG Jigsaw killer. You gotta have him in the movies. So they're making a prequel, and so he's the star again, and it's all about him, so you know it's gonna be good. That was a trailer of the movie we saw last night. It was the first time I'd seen the trailer. It looks good. I'm way into it. I may have to call up my date, Israel Gutierrez, and go see a matinee to see Saw with him again. If you don't know that story, now you know. He and I we would go to matinee dates, the two of us, and he was my buddy to go see the Saw movies. But now my son can go see them. He's watched all of them. He's old enough now. Anyway, we're a horror movie family. We love going to the horror movies. And we like it in the theater, too. Because then, the sound, all of it, you got to see horror movies in the theater. So, yesterday, I get done doing Canty and Carlin, 7 p.m. We're going to the 8 o'clock showing of Talk to Me. If you haven't seen if you don't know what I'm talking about, Talk to Me. It's the movie where it's like a group of kids and they're like partying, like high school age, yeah, like 17, 18 years old. And there's this hand, like this ceramic hand, and they say like some type of voodoo spell, and they get to, meet up with these dead spirits. It's a spiritualistic, ritualistic, like dead experience. Anyway, that's the movie, all right? And this movie, 95% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So this movie getting excellent reviews. And it's hard to please everybody with a horror movie, all right? Also, it's from A24 Studios, who always seem to put out the good horror movies. So, he wants to go see Talk to Me. I'm like, yeah, I'll go see that movie. That movie looks good. And so we go to see this Talk to Me last night. It's not with any actors or actresses you would recognize. It takes place, I think, well, not I think, it takes place somewhere like in London, it's not American. But anyway, the first scene in this movie, we're talking 2 minutes in. The first scene in this movie, something happens right away where I kind of jumped, and I said to myself, this movie might be too scary. And I've never said that. Now, maybe you jump a little bit watching the movie or what have you. You got to turn away real quick. It's too gory. I don't know the last time, if ever, I've said to myself, this movie might be too scary. And we were 2 minutes in to this movie. It was scary. And we've seen some scary movies recently. We saw Barbarian, which was really freaky. We saw Smile. Smile's scary. That's a good movie. This movie Talk to Me last night. It's scary. It has a couple jump screams, whatever, jump scenes. And there's even a couple scenes where, oh my God, this is why you got to see the movie in the theaters. Because the way that they do the stereo surround sound, there's like a voice coming from another area. My son too, we thought this was someone in the theater who was talking. The way that the voice comes from the speaker, like all the way back there. It was a little bit scary, that scene. But right from the get-go, this movie's going to be scary. And it's kind of violent. And there's a couple of scenes where I don't look away. I only look away when there are spiders on camera. I don't do spiders. Everybody knows that. Otherwise, I don't look away. And I'll kind of squint, or I'll put my hands on my head. Oh my God, but I don't look away. And there were some scenes with the violence where I had to put my hands over my head. And I'm like, oh my God. It was a couple scenes were a tough watch, but this is a very, very good horror movie. If you're into horror movies, I highly recommend seeing Talk to Me. Really, really dug it. Hour and a half, you're in, you're out. That's one of the better things about horror movies, right? Every movie nowadays, we saw Oppenheimer a couple weeks ago. That movie's 7 hours. Horror movies, 90 minutes. Get in, get out. Real easy. And of course, there are a couple scenes where my son, like the movie ends and go, hey, did you like the movie? He goes, yeah, what I saw. He loves horror movies, but he covers his eyes. Like he's not even looking. And then I'll notice that he's scared and he's not looking. I go, you sissy, you open your eyes. You will open your eyes. You will watch this. And so he gets scared and he covers it. You will open your eyes. Watch it. We're here. Watch it. And that movie is good. So that's how I wanted to start the show. And also it's like, I don't know, man. When I was 14, when I was his age, movies weren't scary like this. Movies are definitely scarier, right? And I don't know if it's because they can get away with more in the theaters these days, because probably a lot of these movies that are rated R, of course. That's why when we do big movie or not a big movie, and it's a horror movie, and it's rated PG-13, that's almost always a not a big movie for me. If a horror movie is PG-13, you're not going to get out of it what you're looking for. We also, you know what else we saw recently? We watched it at home because I was a couple years behind on it. With Toni Collette, Gabriel Byrne, Hereditary. That movie was freaky too. Not so much scary, a little bit scary. But that movie was wild. Hereditary, that's a good movie. Oh my God, the opening scene with the daughter coming from the party. No spoilers, but you know what I'm talking about, where she got her head chopped off. Anyway, so Talk to Me. Go see that. That's a scary movie. Movies weren't this scary when I was younger. Like I remember when I was that age, The Shining. It was scary, but it's not. But it was scary almost from like a psychological standpoint. And then there was The Exorcist. The Exorcist is pretty scary. Although, by the way, there's a new Exorcist movie coming out. Looks so scary. Movies are they too scary these days? I feel like the horror movies are really frightening in the year 2023, year of our Lord. So much scarier than they used to be. Am I wrong about that? You can always hit me up on Twitter, of course, at ZASLOW SHOW. You could always hit me up on Instagram, where I'm an influencer, and I love hearing from you guys, at ZASLOWJ. You could always hit me up there, and then sometimes maybe I'll put you in my stories, and then like you're famous because I'm an influencer, and everybody just has such a great time. Hey guys, if you're thinking about getting a new car, the timing is perfect now. Why? Because it's still summer savings. And when you're in the market for a new car, the only place I send you to is the car dealership I personally endorse, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. That's right, you're thinking about getting a new car. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru carries the widest inventory of newest Subaru models on the market. That includes the Outback, the Crosstrek, the Forester, the Ascent, the WRX, a whole lot more. Whether you're looking for a spacious Subaru SUV or you're just looking for something reliable, a Subaru sedan for your daily commute. Yeah, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru is sure to have the perfect model for you. That's right. And North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, they deliver on that North Fort Lauderdale Subaru promise. That's guaranteed most money for your trade, 3-day exchange policy, out the door 90 minutes or less after you say yes, 100% credit approval, lifetime vehicle warranty. Shop NFLSubaru.com. You can shop right from the comfort of your own home. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, conveniently located on North Andrews Avenue, just north of Cypress Creek Road. The building you know and the place to go, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. I'm telling you, man, movies. I don't know they're too scary, but they're scarier than they were when I was my son's age. Much scarier at that point. I mean, I came home last night. I had to calm my nerves down. That means I went to the fridge and I took out a Johnny. That's right. I got a 6-pack of Johnny Cuba, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0. Got a couple left chilling in the fridge right now. Had myself a Johnny, sat down on the couch, watched the end of Monday Night Football last night, Commanders and Ravens. We'll get to that coming up. If you don't know about Johnny Cuba, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0, European roots with a Caribbean soul. It's a refreshing German lager in a can. That's what I needed. That's what I needed after that movie last night. If you don't have Johnny Cuba, if you haven't even tried it yet, shame on you. You could pick up a 6-pack right now at Sedano's or Presidente, your local Winn-Dixie. Fresco y Mas carries Johnny Cuba. And of course, always drink responsibly. It's like why I like having a Johnny in my home on the ZASLOW Mansion family room couch. I sit there in my underwear and I watch the game. And of course, don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. So, let's get down to business. That movie last night was good, man. See it in the theater. It's not going to be out for much longer. It wasn't playing in very many theaters when I checked last night. Talk to me. Go see it. All right. So, the big news of the day is, yesterday was a breaking news show on Canty and Carlin. There was a couple stories that were breaking news. We're breaking news on most notably, well, there were a couple things. Number one, we got some news about James Harden, where the Harden news, where the NBA was investigating. They've been investigating what James Harden called Daryl Morey a liar about, right? Sorry, I'm taking a sip of my vitamin water. So, turns out he's referring to Daryl Morey being a liar because Daryl Morey promised he would trade him quickly. All right, that is so lame. Anyway, the other breaking news, yesterday on Canty and Carlin, I was hosting breaking news show. Adam Schefter reported there that the Indianapolis Colts have granted Jonathan Taylor and his agent permission to approach other teams and seek a trade. Now, he is on the PUP, so that's going to hurt the trade scenario. But this is one of the best running backs in the NFL, and he is super young. So he's out there looking for a trade. You know what should happen? He's out there looking for a trade. They should trade him to Philadelphia for James Harden. That's what they should do. Anyway, so it was breaking news yesterday. Jonathan Taylor has been allowed to seek a trade. Now, the next question is, and by the way, betting odds, Dolphins, 2-1 favorites to land Jonathan Taylor. Yep, 2-1 favorites. So, should the Dolphins or any other team out there go after Jonathan Taylor? I'm always down for getting great players, especially in the NFL. I don't get attached. See, I'm super attached to Miami Heat players. I don't want to trade anybody. I'd be the worst general manager. NFL, don't care. Not like the only guy on the team that I want, like I want to win with Tua. Otherwise, everybody else, I don't care. Let's get all the good players. I don't get attached to the football players. And maybe it's because they're not as accessible. We don't hear from them as much during the week. Every player talks once a week. They're out there with the helmets on. You don't even know what all of them look like. You don't know what all of them sound like. I'm not as attached to my team's football players. So I'm always down to get great players. And the Dolphins have shown they're all about F them picks. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, F them picks. And using maybe a second-round pick, that I would give up a second-round pick in a heartbeat for Jonathan Taylor. I know the Colts came out and said first-round pick. Of course they're going to say first-round pick. Here's what we want, and we'll negotiate down, of course. You're not going to start from second-round pick or third-round pick. Of course they're going to say first-round pick. I would use a second-round pick on a 24-year-old. See, that's the key. On a 24-year-old all-pro running back who, for his career so far, averages over 5 yards a carry. I want that guy. F them picks. I'll go get that guy. So I'm always down for acquiring that type of player. All right. As far, and like that to me, if you're the Dolphins, that to me sounds like a good use of resources. I would give up a second-round pick, but you're only getting him on the good contract for 1 year, this year. When you have the quarterback, the reason it gets interesting, the Dolphins are going to have to pay Tua next year. The Dolphins are in that window right now, especially because you don't know how long Tyreek Hill's going to play. He already said this will be his last contract. The Dolphins' window is kind of now, also because when you have a quarterback who you could win a Super Bowl with, and I believe the Dolphins have a quarterback they can win a Super Bowl with. When you have a quarterback you can win a Super Bowl with, you strike now while you have the value of the lesser contract, of that rookie contract. Because when they start to pay Tua that exorbitant amount of money, you're not going to be able to put together all the pieces around him. When you give the quarterback that massive money, you almost need to say to yourself, okay, can this guy carry us to a Super Bowl? Right now, the question is, can Tua lead to a Super Bowl? Because his contract isn't crazy, and you could afford big money pieces around him. But when you can't afford the big money pieces around him anymore because you gave him that massive contract, the conversation switches from, can this quarterback lead you to a Super Bowl, to, can this quarterback carry you to a Super Bowl? So that's why I think you're in the place where, if you're the Dolphins, you may want to explore this trade because you have the great value contract with Tua. And you also have the great value contract right now with Taylor, but it's only for 1 year. Now, here's the thing. Here's the other side of it. The reality, and I'm always about, hey, get great players. And the Dolphins so far have told you over the last few years, in order to get great players, okay, F them picks. But here's the reality. The Dolphins don't need Jonathan Taylor. Not because he isn't great, but he isn't in a position of need. It's the same thing with Dalvin Cook. Now, yes, there's a 4-year age difference there, and that's super relevant. That's really important. But the Dolphins valued Dalvin Cook at this number. They weren't going to have to trade for him. They valued him at number X. And it's like, all right, if you will take this, what we value you at, we'll bring you in. But we're not going over what we value you at. And part of it was because it's not a position of need for the Dolphins. So they don't need Jonathan Taylor for a couple of reasons. One of which, it's not a position of need, but also signing Christian Wilkins to big money, who's holding in is more important than bringing in Jonathan Taylor. Think about the message that sends and the message it sends to Christian Wilkins, guys who have played hard for you for several years, guys who you drafted and believed in and have repaid you with their level of play, and now they're looking to get paid, and instead of giving you that money, they bring in someone from the outside and give him that money. That does not send a good message. And that's not the type of message that the Dolphins front office has been sending their players, their own players, who they're trying to keep. And giving Christian Wilkins big money is more important than bringing in Jonathan Taylor and giving him more money, giving him big money. And don't forget, if the team performs this year, they're also going to need to pay Tua. You can't pay everyone. And Jonathan Taylor, who's upset with his current situation in Indianapolis because Jim Irsay came out and totally trashed the meeting that the running backs had on Zoom, totally inappropriate, but also has made it clear they are going to play you through your contract and they are not going to re-sign you, giving you the big money. Now, they seem to be at a standstill. It's a Mexican showdown. They seem to be at a standstill. No one wants to blink. And they said, all right, go out there, see if you can find a trade partner. We're asking for a first-round pick. So they're hoping to either acquire a first-round pick or Jonathan Taylor sees, yeah, you know what? No one else is going to give me the money either, so maybe I'll just come back and play for the Colts. I think we're way far past that point. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's where we're at right now. So the Dolphins, they got to pay Tua next year. They got to pay Wilkins now, and it's not a position of need. So yeah, the Dolphins can be 2-1 favorites to land Jonathan Taylor. The Dolphins will certainly look into it. I don't see them going very hard after him. Now, let me give you a reason for the Dolphins to do it. All right, let's look at both sides here. Now I'm going to give you a reason for the Dolphins to do it. First, though, I got to tell you the only place that I get my homeowner's insurance from for about 10 years now. I know that I'm covered because I use Brunt Insurance. Brunt Insurance gets me the most comprehensive insurance coverage on my home at the most affordable rate out there. And when you give Brunt Insurance a call, 954-589-2204, you know you're making the right call, because if you just go to Google and you put homeowners insurance, there's so many different options there. You're not going to know what you should do. You're not going to know which policy is best for you. You're not going to know what you're leaving out. You don't know what you don't know. And that's why you're making the right call when you call 954-589-2204, bruntinsurance.com. They're going to get you the type of insurance that is tailored exactly to your needs. If you don't own your home, you need renter's insurance or condo insurance. Now, I get my homeowner's insurance through Brunt Insurance, but if you need automobile, motorcycle, boaters insurance, 954-589-2204, you're making the right call. Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they have the expertise and the experience to find the perfect coverage for you. And that includes, by the way, comprehensive policies on both trailers and motorhomes. Let the team at Brunt Insurance help you learn all about your policy options, and you're going to make an informed decision that's not going to keep you up at night. 954-589-2204, bruntinsurance.com. So, let me give you the other side of why the Dolphins would consider bringing in Jonathan Taylor. And it's not just as simple as, 24-year-old all-pro back who averages over 5 yards a carry. There's more to it than that. Here's a reason to do it. And it's twofold. The Dolphins' running game was not an issue last year. That's not why you would consider bringing him in. Like, oh, our running game sucked, we got to get him. No. The issue was they didn't run the ball enough. The issue was Mike McDaniel didn't stick to the running game, especially in times that they should have when they're playing from behind. And yes, their strength was passing the football. But there are times, and especially Mike McDaniel, who we know part of his offense is that running scheme. They didn't stick with the running game enough. If you acquire a guy like Jonathan Taylor, it forces you to use the running game and to stick to the running game. So that's a positive in bringing in Jonathan Taylor and essentially paying him. You gotta run the football then if you got Jonathan Taylor. But here's the reason that I especially like when it comes to the possibility of bringing in Jonathan Taylor. It allows you to protect Tua. How does it do that, you ask? It allows you to protect Tua because it forces you to use him. He's so good running the football, and that allows you not to have Tua drop back to pass as much. That forces you to stick with the running game. A quarterback who has spent the whole offseason learning jiu-jitsu so he knows how to fall, you're going to have him drop back even less. You're going to have him risk being hit less because you're forced to give the ball to the running back who you just paid, who you just acquired, and is arguably the best running back in the National Football League. To me, it does two things. It forces you to run the football when Mike McDaniel was way too quick to abandon the running game last year. And for me, I like the idea of making Tua have to drop back to pass maybe fewer times a game because you got to give the ball to that guy. You're forced to give Jonathan Taylor the ball. So that's the other side of it. I think those are a couple good reasons to bring him in. But I really don't believe, if they don't get Jonathan Taylor, I really don't believe that we're ever going to get to a place this season where we're sitting back and saying, you know what's a major problem for this Dolphin team? You know why they're not winning? Running game stinks. I don't think we're going to have that conversation. The Dolphins clearly don't feel that way either. It's why they didn't get Saquon Barkley. It's why they didn't get Dalvin Cook. And it's why they're not going to get Jonathan Taylor. They've been smart the way they've handled their transactions. They do not overpay. They have a value on certain players. They would like them at that value, and I don't see them paying this guy. I don't see them giving up the pick and the money for that position. Yes, F them picks. Tyreek Hill, first-round pick, big money. It's a different position. Yes, F them picks. Bradley Chubb, first-round pick, here's the money. It's a different position. He's a pass rusher. For running back, especially when there is no reason to believe between Mostert and Wilson and Devin Achane, who they already used a second-round pick on and are hardly paying. There's no reason to believe that this Dolphin team is going to go out there and pay Jonathan Taylor. So I gave you both sides there. I'm always about acquiring great players, especially in football. But I don't see the Dolphins acquiring Jonathan Taylor. I don't see the need for the Dolphins to acquire Jonathan Taylor.